Dear OnePlus, back in 2014, you revolutionized the smartphone industry with the self-dubbed flagship killer release, the OnePlus One. What we had was an affordable device with most of the same high-end specifications being used in other flagship devices on the market. And away we went. For the next few years, you were leading the charge, offering devices with fantastic specs for really affordable prices. Yet as the years rolled on, it became evident that the budget realm was not really where your heart truly laid. For every new device that you released, the prices also gradually increased as well. Now sure, you were adding features and improving things, so it made sense for the devices to move in an upward trajectory, but then in 2019, you just went the full hog with the OnePlus 7 Pro, which was pretty much a fully fledged flagship. And whilst you of course still release mid-range and budget devices, many would say that you've kind of lost your way over the past few years, and that's not just because of pricing either. So I'm here to present you with 5 suggestions that I think you should implement. And if you do, I think this will drastically help to bring the OnePlus brand that was once loved and adored by almost everyone back to its former glory. You ready, OnePlus? Let's do it. So to start, we've got to talk about your software. Now, a number of years ago, there was really very little question to it. Oxygen OS was by far the best Android skin available. But then, over the years, for some reason you decided to steer away from that stock Android look and feel to something that resembles Samsung's One UI. And for me, that definitely ain't heading in the right direction. It's not like the current iteration of Oxygen OS is a bad software skin. In fact, it's still one of the best available, but it's that departure from the stock Android look that concerns me. And then the news comes in that OnePlus just recently merged with Oppo, and as a result, the code base of Oxygen OS is being merged with Oppo's ColorOS to supposedly offer a better software experience. Now, whilst they tell us that on the user side of things, Oxygen OS will largely remain the same, I'm not so sure about that. See, we've seen OnePlus break promises in the past regarding their software, like when they said Android Nougat would be coming to the OnePlus 2, or other devices also having their software update support stop short of what was originally promised. And so the same could definitely happen here with Oxygen OS. So OnePlus, please listen to me here. If there are any internal murmurs in the water about making Oxygen OS look even more like One UI or ColorOS, please put a pin in that and let that not be the case. And whilst you're at it, try and get things looking a little more like stock Android again going forward. Now, speaking of broken promises regarding software support, this next point is all about exactly that. Over the years, OnePlus has become somewhat infamous for essentially leaving its users in the sand by promising a certain amount of software updates, but then bailing out of that for one reason or another. But even more than that, lately, there have been a lot of software issues with your phones that haven't really been fixed. Things like touch input lag or color tints when viewing your displays at low brightness, or perhaps the worst one yet, delayed app notifications. Seriously, I rarely ever get notifications from Gmail when using a OnePlus phone, and that's an issue that was present years back when I used the OnePlus 3T. So granted, you have recently come out and promised 3 years of major OS updates for your flagship devices and 4 years of security patches, which is definitely promising, but one, that means very little when your updates don't actually fix some of the larger issues, and 2, you've been known to break promises in the past, so don't let that be the case again. I'm not going to ask for anything ridiculous here like 5 years of major OS updates, but I am asking you to 1, hold true to your word, and 2, actually fix the issues present on so many of your devices. Now, one other issue I've noticed of late that can't be helping the situation is that you've started releasing a vast array of devices, most of which are only available in certain regions. So aside from your main lineup, which currently contains the 9 Pro, the regular 9 and the Nord 2, you've then also got a plethora of other phones like the Nord N200 or the Nord CE, the 9R and the N10. Now, aside from those pretty awful names, that is a convoluted portfolio of phones, and it doesn't make much sense to me. It just looks like you're trying to become the next Samsung, and don't worry, I'm coming for them next, but OnePlus, a wider portfolio of phones is only going to make life harder for yourself, particularly when it comes to software support. And it's not surprising that you're only offering one major OS update for your really budget phones, which is kinda unacceptable. So OnePlus, you've got to refine your lineup of phones. And from my perspective, I think you should bring your portfolio down to just 3. The Pro lineup, the flagship lineup with the likes of the regular 9 or 8T, and then just your main Nord lineup, with that main OnePlus Nord being the only budget option. And that leads me to my next point, pricing and availability. Now, credit where credit is due, I actually think the pricing of the OnePlus Nord and the regular OnePlus 9 is pretty spot on. But the issue is that Pro lineup. The OnePlus 9 Pro was the first time your pricing went above and beyond the $1,000 mark for the globally available baseline version. And for me, that just seems wrong from a company once heralding themselves as the flagship killer company. Now, I know the OnePlus 9 Pro was a true flagship, so it seems fitting to add a flagship price tag to go with, but I don't know, it just still feels wrong. So look, if there's a way that you can find the courage to bring the pricing down below that magic $1,000 mark for your next Pro device, then I will seriously applaud you. But then the next thing you need to solve is the availability of your phones. So for context, there actually was supposed to be a OnePlus 9 Pro device that came with 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage that was meant to cost just a sliver under that $1,000 price tag, but it wasn't available globally. Then you've got the regular OnePlus 9, which supposedly offers wireless charging, but not for the Indian versions of the phone. And even the OnePlus Nord wasn't available in the US as well. So OnePlus, what we'd really appreciate is worldwide availability for your entire lineup of phones. That would inspire confidence. And so then we come to the big area that perhaps you were hoping I wasn't gonna mention in this video, but it's gotta happen. And of course, we're talking about the cameras. And whilst you've made big strides in this department over the past couple of years, let's be honest, you're still quite a ways behind the rest of the pack when it comes to the images your phones capture. And I think largely this comes down to software processing. See, take a look at these 2 portrait images. Believe it or not, both of them were actually taken with the same phone, the regular OnePlus 9, and yet they look drastically different from the other. That's because this one was taken with what's called a Gcam mod, which essentially ports the Pixel camera app over to other devices. And whilst you're likely to see only minimal changes when just taking landscape images with the Gcam mod, when it comes to portrait images and low light photography, the Gcam mod absolutely trounces the stock OnePlus camera app. But this isn't news to OnePlus. They've been hearing and supposedly listening to user feedback about how their camera app really struggles with processing over a number of years. And they even brought on Hasselblad this year in an attempt to improve their image processing. But the results are still lackluster. OnePlus, whatever you're doing, it's not really working. If it means scratching the entire OnePlus camera app in its current state and starting from scratch, do it. I mean, heck, take the Gcam port, break down the APK and coding and see what it's doing right, and copy and paste it over to the OnePlus camera app. And I gotta say, you're kind of lucky the Gcam mod even exists, because without it, I wouldn't have been nearly quite as positive in my reviews of your phones over the years. So OnePlus, please fix your cameras, or more specifically, how they process images. And so that's it. OnePlus, if you implement these 5 changes, then I say you'll be dominating the headlines once more, but this time with glowing reviews of your phones. And so now I turn to you guys, everyone watching this video. What did I miss? I reckon there's a pretty solid chance that OnePlus are actually watching this video. And if that's the case, I reckon it's also a pretty solid bet that they're reading the comments as well. So be nice, but let them know the changes you'd like to see as well. Beyond all of that, if you missed the recent announcements, then I am pumped to let you know that my filmmaking course, Creating Cinematic Technology Videos, is back up and live on the newly redesigned Graphy platform. The course is filled with over 5 hours of in-depth content that unpacks my entire process for creating high-quality technology videos like this one, and it's really affordable. So I'll leave a link to it down in the description below. Aside from that, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will catch you later.